Good afternoon, and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at some pitching for today, the 11th of July. It is Friday. We do have a full 15-game slate ahead of us this evening. A bit extreme, if you ask me, but it is what it is. We do have some names, but a lot of names in some questionable scenarios or spots. At least for me. It's going to be probably kind of tough to narrow it down to 8 or 9 pitchers, which is annoying. But we should see most of the ownership spread out amongst pitching. We do, right now we have only 5 guys projected at 10% or more on DraftKings, which is, I don't know if it's shocking or if it's just shocking that we have 4 guys at 21% plus on a 15-game slate. But we get, guys that we've used a ton of, like Grant Holmes down at less than 4%, Luis Castillo at 4%, even though it's a not great matchup. Ranger Suarez at just 4.5%. Gavin Williams against the White Sox at just over 5%. Some names that are definitely interesting, but also just a lot of question marks. As far as weather, we don't really have much to worry about. Kansas City, I guess, could be an issue. There's a lot of different opinions on the game and the timing-wise, but it's one we're definitely going to need to pay attention to. With that said, I just don't think we're considering the pitching much in that matchup anyways, but we will jump into it. This is a first look at pitching on the slate. If you do play in FanDuel, actually, most of my action is on DraftKings, and if you do play in FanDuel, I would cut my pool in half or so. Pricing isn't as tight. You don't have to be as creative. It allows you to get the stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. Now let's just jump right into the pitching options since we have 15 games to look at here. Miami, Baltimore. I think both guys are viable. Dean Kramer has shown enough upside to pay off. I'm not too worried about the Miami offense overall. Not the best ballpark. A lot of home runs have been hit, especially by left-handed bats in this ballpark. On the other side, Edward Cabrera as well. Absolutely dominated 2 starts ago. Similar upside, maybe even more upside than Kramer has. 2 earned runs or less in 8 straight starts. It's very, very interesting to see. I would put Cabrera ahead of Dean Kramer on this slate, but both guys are at least in consideration for me right now. Cabrera's K-prop's a little bit better. I assume that Dean Kramer is a slight favorite, though. So we go from 2 guys that are kind of borderline plays to this game where I think Rodon's in play just because he does have the upside. And if I'm going to use a pitcher against the Cubs, I'm going to prefer a left-handed pitcher. His numbers at home have been phenomenal. Strikeout rate actually is better on the road. But just his overall numbers at home. Average against, whip, etc. I'm very interested in him just for GPP purposes. It's not one I feel super confident in by any means, but 5.5 K-prop. There are actually a lot of K-props that are decent. Chase Burns, Joe Ryan, Paul Skeens, McCullers, Grant Holmes, Ryan Nelson. Scherzer seemed a little high, Logan Webb. So we have some Ks to choose from on the slate. I think Rodon is somebody that I want just because he has the upside. And we're going to get him at, 6% own. So I can get 12 to 15% of him in my run. Be solidly overweight, but not be, overly exposed, which is something that I like to look for. Next game, Tampa Bay, Boston. Gonna have to pass on this game from a pitching standpoint. We've used Dobbins a couple times before. I have to get an update on his injury. and what he did in rehab-wise, but still, I'm just not going there. And then also on the other side, Tampa Bay is going to do a job of limiting Drew Esposon's innings total by the end of the year, so now they've gone to a piggyback system. His last start, he just went 2 innings, and Boyle came in as a long man. Boyle's got a ton of upside, but trying to predict what they're going to do is a huge question mark for me, and I just don't know if we can go there. If we find out that Rasmussen's only going to throw 2 innings at a time, I am intrigued by Boyle, but the problem is he may only go 4 innings. 3 to 4 innings at some point. He did go 5 after Rasmussen went 2. I like Boyle's upside, so if this wasn't a 15-gamer, I think he would make my pool. But given that we have enough options, I just don't think we need to risk it in that scenario. Colorado, Cincinnati. Chase Burns going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate because he is taking on the Colorado offense that we keep picking on. Obviously, it's a ballpark that a lot of home runs can happen in. He had a rough start against Boston, so kind of his numbers there are rough. But you take out that a third of an inning disaster, and we have 15 strikeouts in less than 10 innings. A ton of upside, super volatile pitcher, but large field GPP-wise, give me all the Burns. I'm probably going to double the field in ownership on Chase Burns. And my Friday night's going to basically rely on him. And if he sucks, then I guess I suck. But it is what it is. Skubal versus Castillo. We saw Skubal's projected over 35% ownership right now on DraftKings. I have no qualms with that. Seattle can strike out plenty. He struck out a bunch of them the first time he faced them. They did get to him for 3 runs and a lot of base runners. He can give up some home runs, so don't be alarmed if, Raleigh or Rosarena hit a home run off of him or something. But his strikeout numbers are absolutely spectacular at home. His home runs allowed number drops as well. It's just a great matchup. 12K, but he's definitely somebody that we want to have exposure to. Luis Castillo coming off of what I feel like might be his best start in a number of years. Extreme home road splits. He's on the road here. I'm not going to get there. There are some strikeout nights against Detroit, but I'm just not. I'm going to try to not use pitching against Detroit, much of the season, especially on a 15-gamer one. I feel like we just don't have to go there. Cleveland, the White Sox, Game 2 of the doubleheader. Gavin Williams, somebody that I'm very interested in, coming off of a great start against a difficult Detroit team that I just talked about. He's been an extreme reverse splits guy, so I'm very interested to see what kind of a lineup they run out there. He faced the White Sox once this year and absolutely dominated them. He's not quite as good on the road, but still, I like the spot. I've always liked the talent of Gavin Williams. He's just volatile. Walks being a big issue. I have no problem picking on the White Sox with him. Just know that the White Sox, despite not being the greatest offense, not a huge K upside matchup for him. But I do think he has a shot, to be one of the highest scoring pitchers if things kind of go his way. Texas, Houston. I'm not playing Jack Leiter. I was looking at some stats earlier today, and I didn't realize that Houston leads baseball in batting average, which obviously not a great stat to look at for DFS purposes, other than the fact that just means they're getting plenty of hits. And that's not the best thing on DraftKings. So Leiter's not going to make my pool. McCullers is going to, just because he's flashed upside already this year. At least I'm pretty sure he's going to at that 6.6K price tag. He was decent against Texas first time he faced him. He's been bad at home so far, but his strikeout numbers are there at home. So I want the upside. I'm going to use him. I feel like I'm just going to mix him in a little bit. I'll be slightly overweight. 7% projected ownership. I'll probably be in the 10 to 12% range or so. But still, I do not mind McCullers at all. Two of the more popular pitchers in this next game, Skeens and Joe Ryan. As we see, they're second and third in ownership. I'm going to lean Skeens just because I think the Minnesota offense is lackluster right now. Throwing the ball pretty well. His K numbers are all over the place, though. Like, he's not this consistently dominant K guy. We saw him come out after 78 pitches last time. 2 out of his last 3 starts, he's been at 78 pitches, so it could be a 5-inning cap. I'm not sure. Joe Ryan, probably just as strong of a play, if maybe even stronger. A lot of rumors that he's on the trade block, with Minnesota kind of floundering a bit after their big win streak. I will be gladly on pitchers in that game. Milwaukee, Washington. Came out that Priester's going to follow DL Hall opening. Priester's had a decent run. I'm just not going to get there. I'm not afraid of Washington, but I just don't know if Priester's going to get us the upside we're looking for. And I'm just not going to use Parker on a 15-game slate. Mets, Kansas City, talked about that with the weather potential. Senga making his return from the IL. Threw 3 2/3 in his last start. 68 pitches, so he's going to see some sort of a pitch cap. So because of that, and plus Kansas City doesn't strike out all that much, I'm going to play the wait and see with Senga and see him come back healthy before I start considering him. Atlanta, St. Louis. Grant Holmes is interesting, but St. Louis doesn't strike out a whole lot. So what do? I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to end up removing him from the pool. He hasn't been as strong on the road either, which is obviously where he's at this evening. And I believe it was super hot yet in St. Louis. Yeah, in the 90s with some wind blowing out. I'm going to pass there. Probably means I'm going to pass on Liberatore. But left-handed pitching against Atlanta has been somewhat profitable. But again, with the weather pointing towards offenses, I just don't think we need to go to Liberatore on this slate. Arizona and the Angels. Ryan Nelson is certainly interesting. 20-plus fantasy points in 4 straight starts. He's been pretty bad on the road where he's at tonight, but the Angels do strike out plenty. He might be one of those last guys in my pool, or one of the last guys I remove. I have more interest in him than Tyler Anderson, even though I don't mind left-handed pitching against Arizona. I'm just not excited to play Tyler Anderson on a 15-game slate. Philly, San Diego. 2 of the teams with the best pitching staffs in baseball. Problem here is San Diego doesn't strike out a whole lot, but still, using left-handed pitching against San Diego, I think, is a profitable thing. 25-plus in 4 of his last 5 starts. He's been absolutely ridiculous on the road so far. Doesn't rely on strikeouts. So I just think Ranger Suarez is definitely in play for us, even though the matchup isn't ideal. Bergert, I'm just not going there. Philadelphia can strike out a decent amount, but I'm just not going to rely on Bergert on a 15-game slate. Toronto and Blue Jays. Scherzer obviously could have some upside here. His K-Prop 5.5 really shocked me in his return. I'm going to pass on pitching in this ballpark. Severino just looks atrocious when pitching at home. And Dodgers, Giants. Logan Webb, when pitching at home, has got to be in play, but I don't love the matchup. A lot of the Dodgers have hit him pretty well overall. He was strong against them the first time he faced them, but didn't rack up strikeouts. But he is at home, so maybe he ends up in my pool, but I also wouldn't mind fading him. Dustin May, I do like pitchers in this ballpark, but is he somebody I want to rely on? Right now, I don't think so, but that obviously could change. So there we have it. There's our first look at pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at TFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., I'll put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's R-A-Z, for 10% off monthly. And again, we do have our merch store going on. I'll put a link in the description below. You can pick up my hoodie as well. But There you have it. Best of luck, everybody.